Hi, I'm Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor. I've had a question from Adam who's asking about leafleting, and he's specifically saying, have I ever used leaflets, the sort of we buy houses fast type leaflets, and if so, what sort of success rate would I expect with my leaflets, and what sort of discount would I get from a price if I actually managed to find a motivated seller? All of which are great questions, but I think we need to take a step back because probably in the real world it doesn't quite work like that because there's so many different variables. Because it's not like all leaflets are the same. Critically, the wording that you have on your leaflet, the size of your leaflet, the colour of the leaflet, the colour of the printing on the leaflet, all of this is going to make a difference. Why? Because the leaflet is like a little advert, and if you go to one of the big advertising agents, if you go to Saatchi & Saatchi or Ogilvy's or somebody like that, they will tell you about the power and the importance of A, communicating the right message, but B, testing the message for your marketplace. So there's so many different variables. There's the leaflet itself. What does the leaflet actually say? What is the leaflet offering? That's going to make a difference to the response rate. Where you actually deliver the leaflet is going to make a difference. If you're after a particular type of deal and you're after a particular type of seller, you need to think about the area in which you're delivering the leaflet and what the people who live in that particular area are going to respond to on a leaflet. That's going to make a difference. Another variable which we probably don't even think about when we're sort of thinking about doing leafleting is what actually happens when somebody rings up. And by the way, at the moment, although I know that we're into high tech and all this kind of stuff, I wouldn't send somebody to a website because if they go to a website they'll probably disappear. I'd still use probably just a mobile number on my leaflet, and I'd expect people to text. If they text, I'd probably do the initial sort of conversation either by text or offer to ring them and see whether they want to speak on the phone. If they ring, even better. But whether you're going to be able to do a deal with somebody or not, part of the process is what happens when they contact you. How do you vet them? What questions do you ask them? How do you treat them? If you make them feel safe, secure, and don't forget, if somebody's going to ring you, the chances are that, or text you, they've probably got some kind of a problem which they need to resolve. They don't want to deal with somebody who they think isn't going to be looking after their best interests. So you need to treat them with courtesy and respect. That's going to affect whether you're going to be able to do a deal once you've popped a leaflet through the door and somebody's actually got in touch with you. And then of course a last point on this, because this, we could talk about this probably all day. There's so many different things that we could be thinking about. But one thing to remember is that somebody's only going to respond to your leaflet if at the moment they receive the leaflet, they need to respond to you. Now I do hear stories of people who perhaps go out leafleting and then 2 years later somebody will ring from a particular leaflet, but it's very, very rare. What's usually going to happen is if that particular day when the leaflet goes through the letterbox, the person who receives the leaflet has no need to call you, they won't call you and the leaflet will just go in the recycling, hopefully, as opposed to the general landfill. But you know what I mean, there's got to be a reason why they'd want to call you. And so there's a timing issue as well. And this is why when you leaflet an area, you don't just do it once. You might have to leaflet your investment area a dozen times before you start getting meaningful leads. Or it could be that if it just so happens that your leaflet goes through the door of somebody who's highly motivated, that they've got a particular problem that they need to solve and they think you could be the person to solve that problem, you might get a call there and then. I've had calls within 10 minutes of putting a leaflet through the door. I've also had calls months after putting a leaflet through the door. It all varies, but probably it's going to need repeated, regular leafleting until you start getting any kind of a meaningful response. So what am I trying to say, Adam? What I'm trying to say is that it's really not the case that I can say to you, well, if you use leaflets, you'll get a 10% response rate and 1% of those will become deals. Because again, okay, one more variable. I said that was the last one, but this is the very last one. When you actually go around to somebody's house and you sit there and you talk to them and you find out what their problem is and you try and structure a deal, the variable there is, how good are you at structuring deals? Do you want to structure a deal which involves you putting some cash in? Or are you going to try and structure a deal which involves you putting no cash in? That may well affect whether you're able to do a deal or not. And all of these things cumulatively mean that there are no hard and fast rules. You cannot just say, yeah, well, if you do leafleting, you'll get a 10% response rate or a 5% response rate, and you'll get, 1% of your leaflets will result in deals. It just does not work like that. You need to test. You need to test the wording of your leaflets. You need to test where you deliver the leaflets. You need to test the type of deal and strategy that you're trying to undertake with the leaflets. You need to test how you respond to people who respond to your leaflet, and you need to test how you actually structure deals when you sit down with people face to face in their front room having a cup of tea with them.
Well, I hope you found that informative and inspirational. And if you want help in property, please do come over to my website www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk. Loads of great resources there, including my blog. There's loads of free videos, loads of great articles. There's free reports to download, including Learning with Peter, where you'll be able to access resources like my video courses, like my ebooks, including my home study course, the Successful Property Investors Strategy Workshop, which I've literally sold thousands of copies of, which takes you through how I started in property, literally with none of my own money, but how I was able to build a portfolio of £2 million worth of property in just 4 years. I'll show you everything that I did right so that you can do the same, and I'll show you everything that I did wrong. I'll tell you about all of my mistakes so that you can avoid them, so that you can progress in property far more quickly than me. Until next time, here's to successful property investing.